Hello everyone, welcome to another ODNT Spotlight. I'm Steve DeWinter, your host, and I have with us a wonderful fairy tale magical author named Lisa Manifold, and she is here promoting her Sisters of the Curse series that starts with a prequel novel that was written between the first and second one, but it's a prequel, so we'll do that one first, and it's called One Night at the Ball. And so she's got her three-part series here, starting with Thea's Tale, and then continuing on with Casimir's Journey, and all three of these books are already out, but coming out this month, November of 2015, if you're watching this as this video is just coming out, she has Catherine's Grimoire, and we'll definitely ask what Grimoire is. I already looked it up and I know, but we'll ask her about that and what she thinks about that. So for Catherine's Grimoire, Sisters of the Curse. So let's go ahead and switch on over and let's meet Lisa. Hello, Lisa. Welcome to ODNT Spotlight.
Hi, Steve. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you very much for coming on the show. So tell us a little bit about your series, the Sisters of the Curse series, and your inspiration for that.
So my inspiration for this is the Grimm's fairy tale, The 12 Dancing Princesses. This is my favorite fairy tale. This and The Little Mermaid. But when I would read this fairy tale, I would think, why don't they just tell Dad what's going on? Why are we dragging this out? And then as the fairy tale goes on, a couple of people die. And I think, why don't they just tell Dad and spare the lives of these poor saps that are, just trying to get a leg up in the world? And they don't. And the Grimm brothers don't give us any indication as to why these sisters are so cold-hearted. So when I was thinking about what I wanted to write, I wanted to do a retale of why they did the things that they did.
Excellent. And so you dive deeper into the emotions and the reasons for everything, their motivations.
Well, if you read the original Grimm's fairy tale, a lot of this is driven by the eldest daughter. They never give her a name. She's just called the eldest princess or the eldest daughter. And so that's where my books start, is with the eldest daughter, and I named her Thea. And this all comes about because of Thea. She's the catalyst for this, sort of. And then it's how does she get out of the curse that she brings down on herself and her family and everyone else around her.
So you have all the same stuff of the original fairy tale, and so you're doing a retelling.
Yes, it's a retelling. I try to stay true to the fairy tale, but go a little bit deeper into why these things happened.
So how much of a challenge has it been for you as you do a retelling of it and you want to stay faithful to the true story, but then characters start doing this and saying that, and you're like, we could go this way. And then you're like, but I want to stay true.
For me, this is my opinion. That's all this is. When I looked at why would the daughters have behaved this way, to me, it had to be something really horrible, a life or death kind of thing. And so what was appropriate? A curse. It's a life or death curse. And trying to work around keeping true to the fairy tale with why this curse works was I can't even tell you the discussions I had with my writing partners about how to make this curse not only work, but make it believable so that my readers didn't say, what? Are you crazy?
It wasn't just shoehorned in going, well, this is what it is. Accept it.
No, it had to be believable, and I had to make it so that Thea, my main character, and then later on her sisters, all believed in this, and it was reasonable as to why they would believe in it. I didn't expect that, but that was the hardest part.
Yeah, because the real world doesn't make sense, but our fiction has to.
Isn't that funny? Yeah. It when you read it, you can't have readers thinking, oh my God, did you just drop that in because it sounded good at the moment? I didn't want that.
Exactly. So you've got the third book coming out this month.
Yes.
Catherine's Grimoire. So I had to actually look up the word grimoire because I'm like, well, I'm a writer. I've never heard that word before, which is sad once I found out what it meant. So what is a grimoire?
A grimoire is a witch's tale. That's the best definition that I saw of it. It is the witch's primer, the witch's story. And Catherine, it's funny, Catherine didn't start out as a main character. She was just my bad guy. But I think I love her just as much as I love my other two protagonists. So that's how the prequel, One Night at the Ball, came about, because as I'm going through writing Thea's Tale, I kept thinking, God, why is Catherine so crazy? I mean, she really is. She's crazy.
Nuts.
To the point that people said to me, "Why is she so bananas?" And so as I was developing the backstory, that's why you got One Night at the Ball. But after Thea's Tale and Casimir's Journey, Katrin has really she's really wreaked a lot of havoc and she's created a lot of hurt. And so I like characters that are redeemable. I like to see a character redeem themselves. If you hate them and then at the end of a book about them, you can actually enjoy them, that's what I wanted. I wanted to turn Katrin into a more sympathetic character. So this is how Katrin, she's a witch, she's an enchantress, how she uses her magic to redeem herself.
Oh, excellent. Excellent.
I love a good redemption story.
And so it takes so this is the 3 books in the series. That makes it complete then, all 3 books?
Yes, this is the end of the series.
Now, do they end in a cliffhanger if they're a trilogy, or are they each different person's perspective?
Thea's Tale, I've gotten some pushback on the end of Thea's Tale. It is it's what I call the HFN, and that.
Right, happily for now.
Happily for now. And it's not really happy, but, well, it's not happy for all the characters, but you as the reader see that, okay, it's not as dire as we thought. By Casimir's Journey, I have a happily ever after, because I personally hate books that don't have a happily ever after. I like that. So that's what I write.
Especially if you're writing a fairy tale.
Well, in a fairy tale, happily ever after is really, it's relative, I mean, there's usually a lot of death before that happily ever after happens. And I guess it's happy for those who made it out alive.
Yeah, if you're still alive at the end, guess what? You get to be happy.
Exactly.
Your goal? Survive.
But Katrin's Grimoire, what I found as I was writing this is a lot of this is based on Katrin's unhappiness and how she responds to the negative things that have gone on in her life. So Katrin's Grimoire also is a happily ever after for her.
So by the end of it, everyone's happy. Finally.
Everybody's happy.
Good guys, bad guys, everybody gets something good, huh? Because
yes,
you've got your.
The other thing is, and this is so funny. People always say, "Oh, your mom reads it and thinks it's fabulous." My mom will actually tell me if she's like, I don't know if I like that or not, because she's a very nice critiquer. But she said, one of the things that I like about these is that nobody's truly good or truly bad. Like, my good guys have done some pretty crappy things. And you look at it and you can see, that's why you're in the middle of the mess that you're in, because you haven't always been as nice as you should be.
As nice as the hero should be.
Yeah, my heroes are a little bit smudged. They're not.
It's not black and white. There's gray all around.
Yes, there's a lot of gray.
Excellent. And so for these books here, if you're watching this on YouTube or if you're watching this embedded in another website, click the little button down there that says Watch on YouTube. I have a link to all of Lisa's books on Amazon.
Yay!
So yay! And everything, as well as her website, her Facebook, her Twitter, and her Goodreads for that. And she also has a newsletter on her website that you can sign up for if you want to hear and especially be told about. Do we have a specific date?
No, because it's with my editor right now. So,
oh boy,
you know how it goes.
You're going to hang up with me and get on the phone going, okay, I just told everybody it's coming in November.
Well, no, my editor is actually really fast, and I speak to my editor on a very regular basis. So if there's a problem, she will send me, like, a really big problem. She will send me the chapters and say, yeah, no, you got to fix this. we can't deal with my editor is really great because she reads a lot in the genres that I write. So as she can look at it both as an editor, but also as a reader, and say, as a reader, I would stab you with a fork. You cannot have this hanging out there.
Yeah, if you take this book to market, don't go to anyone where you might bump into a reader.
Yeah, well, no, she has said, if you're going to do ABC, you need to expect DEF as a response from your readers, because this is how I would respond. So having someone who is a voracious reader as your editor is fantastic.
Definitely. They help you shape your story so that you're hitting all the points you need to for that.
Yes.
And for these books here, you have not... You started out trying to query some stuff to traditional publishing.
I did. And actually, this is not my first series. My first series, I spent probably a solid year of habitual... Are you familiar with Query Tracker?
Yes, I am.
I had an account on. I still have an account on Query Tracker, and I schlepped that thing to everyone that I thought might be interested in my genre, and I got some requests for pages, which was absolutely, you know how that is. It's
You
absolutely
jump
fantastic.
up, you spin around, I
You're
made
like going
it.
out and having the champagne for dinner that night, and then people would say, I like it, but I don't love it. So I think now, legitimately, people said, yeah, no thanks, and they passed on it because even though it was a complete series, it was not. It was not it just wasn't ready. You know what I mean? If it gives you any indication, in the first series that I wrote, she woke up. She woke up from a dream. Which is one of the worst ways to introduce your character. At least I've been told, to introduce your character to the readers. Where's the inciting incident when she woke up? So that was after. I'm still in the process of querying, and I finally joined a critique group because I start to realize, maybe I need to have other people looking at this to help me figure out why this isn't making it past give me 20 pages or give me 50 pages.
Right.
And one of my critique partners went to a conference where she saw Courtney Milan speak. And I don't know if you're familiar with Courtney Milan.
Yes, I know Courtney. I don't know her, but
she's really amazing, and she's incredibly inspirational. And she said, and all of us were very involved in the querying and the working towards traditional publishing. And she said, you got to go read about this author. So I went to Courtney Milan's website, and I completely wasted like 3 days going through her blog and reading her blog.
She has a lot of good information for people.
She does, and it's just, to me, it made so much sense when she said, why would you hand over control of all this when you can do this yourself? And not only that, but the amount of work that you're expected to do, it's going to be the same regardless of how you publish. And I know this, my friends who are traditionally published, they do most of their own marketing. They do a lot of their own, they do all their own social networking. They are responsible for promoting themselves. So I thought, okay, maybe I can do this. And so I started looking for an editor, and I got very fortunate and found my editor. And then I started looking for a cover artist. That's a whole another journey. And I decided if I was going to do this, I had to do this so that it would be a commercially viable book that looked like every other book on the bookshelf. And it didn't matter how I did it. But it's hard because you spend your entire life, when you're thinking about being a writer, you think about, oh my God, I'm going to get the Simon & Schuster, and I'm going to be on the book tour and Oprah, and that's the only way to do it. And it's not. And now I think it's even harder because there are so many more people who are interested in writing, and the publishing market is changing. I think it's even harder to get a traditional contract.
Well, there's more people in the world,
mm-hmm.
and the traditional publishers have winnowed themselves down through mergers and acquisitions to 5. So there are fewer traditional publishers for many more people who say, I got a book in me.
Well, it's amazing when you tell people, they say, what do you do? And just recently I've started saying, I'm an author.
You were waiting.
No, it's, and I don't know if you've experienced this, but that is a hard leap to make, to say, yeah, I'm an author.
It is.
Most of us are not programmed to go out there and flog ourselves as, buy my stuff. Look at me. It's not instinctive for most people. And when we're writing, you're throwing your baby out there,
right?
So that's even worse to have people looking at your baby. And so I've just started saying I'm an author, and people are like, oh, I'm writing a book. Oh, I could write a book. And I'm thinking, okay, go right ahead. But finishing the book is hard. Yeah. There's a reason why, when you're talking to writers are like, yeah, I haven't written in a week. And we tell each other, put the butt in the chair and just do it, because that is the hardest thing, is to put the butt in the chair and actually get it finished.
Right. Yeah, that is the challenge, is to complete. A lot of people say, I've started 10 books. Because they go, I get distracted. I'm in the middle of an idea, got another idea, so I go and run with that one because that one's more exciting to me.
Yes.
And if you want to be a professional author, you need to say, here's the idea. I'm going to finish this project.
Mm-hmm.
Because now it's no longer a fun thing. It's not your hobby.
It's work.
It's your job. Your job
Yes.
is fun and entertaining, but it's not fun while you're doing it.
No, and one of the things that I've learned, this has been the other, what's the word? The other part of the journey for me as far as being a writer, learning how to get through the beginning, get to the end where I want to, make sure the middle is not that saggy middle.
Right.
Like, yay! Oh, and it goes way down, and people are like, what happened there?
It was started out so good and ended so well.
But what was that bit in the middle? It's this slogging through all that bit in the middle, and how much do the readers actually have to see? That was another thing, and I'm sure you've done this too, where you're like, I want to tell the readers everything. And one of the things I've had to learn is I need to know everything. The readers don't need to know everything.
Right. They only need to know what helps the story go forward.
That is a really tough aspect to learn. So with all that, I can see now why my stuff didn't make it past that first request for pages.
For your early stuff.
Yeah, for my early, and that book, that whole series is under the figurative bed. It may come out. I've shown it to one of my writing partners, and she said, if this is a book of your heart, let's come back to it. But I'm not ready to come back to it right now.
It's a matter of move forward.
Yes. Well, and it's funny you say about different projects. I keep at least 2 projects going, so if I get frustrated with one, I can go work on another one. I have 3 going right now because I've already plotted what I'm going to do for next year. And so I'm finishing up with the Sisters of the Curse series, and I write under a pen name. And then I am working towards my next series for the coming year. So if I get stuck in one, I can move to the other. But I always have to be doing something. You always have to be, and that's hard. Working at home when you're the one that is the designer and the enforcer of your schedule, that is really difficult.
I am a very strong taskmaster.
Were you always a strong taskmaster though, or was that something you developed?
No. I could always sit down and focus on something, and that caused me problems because I could be so focused on something that I'm ignoring everything around me. Mm-hmm. It did good for me in school. When we had a substitute and they gave us an assignment, I could sit down and work on it while all the other kids are throwing things and yelling and screaming. I got done because I didn't even hear them. I could shut out. See, that's my problem is it's not that I'm focused. It's that I shut out. My wife had to throw a shoe at me once because I was on the computer and my universe was a little 15-inch monitor. And that was it. I heard nothing.
I am the complete opposite. I'm like, squirrel. Oh, Facebook. So I have to turn off all of my notifications, and I put my earbuds in, and I listen to music, and that's how I make sure that I don't have any other distractions. Like, I can't have anything else, or my ability to get distracted is, boom, I'm done.
Every little thing. Ooh, what was that?
Yes, I'm that person. I'm like the happy lab. Oh, squirrel. And so I have to force myself to, but I love it. I mean, I wasn't sure being indie is scary. It's really scary because you don't have anybody behind you. It's just you.
There's no advance to try to live off of. Of
Well,
course, your advance is $5,000 nowadays.
Well, your advance is $5,000, and that's before the government and your agent gets a piece of it.
Uh-huh.
It's split up into anywhere from 2 to 4 payments. So really, what are you making? I mean,
less than McDonald's.
Yes, you're not making that much. So when I looked at that, and I'm very much a numbers person. So when I look at, okay, if I'm going to do this and I'm going to make such and such, is it worth it to me to do all this and be responsible for everything, and somebody else gets the lion's share of my profits? It wasn't worth it for me. But it was very hard to let go of. And now that I have done it, and I've done more research into how to market and do promos and, the best practices if you're going to be an indie author, I am astounded that I didn't get to this place beforehand. But I didn't know. You don't know what you don't know.
Right, you don't know what you don't know, and we have a lot of information coming from the traditional publishing realm with their whole marketing thing where we're the only ones that can get you into bookstores. Well, all the bookstores are closing their doors.
Well, and not only that, but I'm in Colorado, and we've got a couple of bookstores here that only sell indie books. And we have local bookstores that focus on Colorado authors or indie authors. So I think with the bookstores closing, and I was really sad when Borders closed. I love Borders. With the big bookstores closing, it's an opportunity for the smaller bookstores, and people find their local bookstore, and that's the one they like.
And they are returning. The local indie bookstores are returning now that.
Well, but and you still have that problem of I print through CreateSpace, and people look at CreateSpace and they're like, Amazon. They throw the evil eye out, but they don't want to deal with Amazon because they see it as a competitor. But a lot of the stores that I have worked with do consignment, and so they still get their piece of the pie, and they don't have to deal with the stock or the returns or the whatever.
Exactly. And CreateSpace is starting to get more acceptance. Some author, a big author, I can't remember now who she is, she just got Walmart.
That is the... I know exactly what you're talking about because I'm reading about that.
Yeah, she's just got
CreateSpace author.
Walmart, and she was just an indie author, and CreateSpace helped her negotiate that deal. So far, they're not giving us any details as to whether there's returnables or anything like that, but the stigmata, the stigma of saying, oh, you're indie, you use CreateSpace. Well, no bookstore will cover your CreateSpace. I tell you, a bookstore will carry any book that they think they can sell.
Yes.
I had a very popular series where I was selling 1,000 copies a month through bookstores. They were ordering.
That is fantastic.
I was being carried by Barnes & Noble, Target. They didn't care that it was CreateSpace. They knew the book would sell.
And if you bring it to them and they do it on consignment, they're completely happy about that because there's no stocking issues. They don't have to hold it. You're in charge of moving the product back and forth.
Exactly, because remember, bookstores are not interested in stocking books. They're interested in selling books. If your book will sell, they will have it on their shelves because they don't want it on their shelf for long.
It's funny. I fully believe in making everything available through CreateSpace because there are people that really like print, and actually,
that's still 60% of the market.
It is, and it's funny. There's an author that I chat with who loves doing large print as well. She makes a large print version available, and she said that is a huge market, and the books are pricier, but the large
thicker,
print,
more pages.
Yes, and so that's a whole nother market. But this next set of series, I have 2 series planned for next year. I'm not going to make a big deal of putting those into print. I'm just going to focus on my Sisters of the Curse series, I have those in print. And I'll probably always make a print copy for myself, but it's not going to be my push. I've just decided for this next couple of series, I want to see what happens if I just focus on the ebooks.
Right. And when we sit there and we talk about, why are you being exclusive to ebooks? It's still a large market.
Well, and the other thing is, my parents are older, and they both have Kindles, and they love them. And they don't actually have a Kindle. Well, one has a Kindle, one doesn't, but they have the Kindle app. And they love it because they can make the print as big as they need it to be.
You no longer need to make a large print and pay more for it for your large print edition. You get what everybody gets, and you change your own font.
Well, and not only that, an e-reader is lighter than a big, thick book. I mean, those are things that I didn't think about, but my older relatives have all said, I didn't think I would like this, but I can make the print as big as I need, and it's a lot easier to hold a Kindle, or a Nook or whatever your e-reader is, than this big, heavy book that I like.
Right, and if you run into someone who says, but I prefer the feel of the hardcover, then buy them a hardcover, hollow it out, and stick the Kindle in it.
Stick the Kindle in there.
You still get the smell and the feel. There you go. Problem solved.
Well, it's funny. I have authors that when they put out a new book, I am right there buying the hardcover because I do like it, but I have a lot less than I thought I would. And I did not think that I was going to love moving to an e-reader. I love my e-reader. I love it.
Oh yeah, I got my Kindle right here. Here it is.
I have a Kindle and I have the Kindle app on my phone, so I use both. My
Yeah, I've got
kids
the
both
Kindle.
have
I've got a
Kindles.
hard Nook. I've got it all. I want a Kobo reader just so I can have them all.
I have not looked into the Kobo reader, but the people that have it really like it.
Yeah, the Kobo reader I like because it's a more open thing. You can then install other apps into it, so you can have both your Kindle and your Nook and your Kobo all in one.
Which I think is good. I think eventually they're going to have to put it so that we don't have proprietary devices or proprietary software. And you know this from ebooks, having to do both EPUB and Mobi.
Right.
It is a pain in the neck. Let's just make it one format and be done with it.
I actually got smart with mine, and for me, it's a very painless, easy thing because I utilize a program that creates both at once for me and my print. So I make one file that I then use for everything.
Nice.
So and after this, we can chat a little more, and I can tell you what that is
That'd be awesome.
and everything. But yeah, indie publishing it's losing its well. Indie publishing initially was lumped in with Vanity Press.
Vanity Press. Well, and the sad thing is, and you've probably seen this also, I am seeing one of the reasons that I'm becoming more vocal about my love and support for the ability to indie publish is I'm seeing a lot of presses pop up that's basically author solutions, or whatever it is they're calling themselves now, with a different name. And all it is, some poor author who doesn't know, shelling out money, and they get a book, but that's all they get. And they've put out all this money and all this effort. And where's their chance of success? Where's their chance of, making this a living? So that's the bad thing for me, because I've seen a lot of predatory services pop up.
Oh yeah, and the thing to remember, if you're an indie author that's looking to do, the money flows this way.
Yes.
To me, Steve DeWinter, my PayPal is no, but the money flows to the author.
Do you know though? I think that
unless you're doing your editing, your cover, and if you're going to utilize a service to make your ebooks or print books, which you can learn to do it yourself or you can hire someone to do it. There's some reasonable ones out there, but except for becoming your own publisher, where you're going to say, I pay for the editing services, both copy and proofreading. I'll pay for my cover. I'll pay to have the products created, and then I distribute them out.
And that's how I do it. I've used Canva for some of my my little advertising things, and I love it. But I am not a graphic designer. I cannot manipulate the way that I think it needs to be. So I actually have a cover artist that I work with. But I don't mind paying her for that because that's her thing, and she does a fantastic job.
Right, and that expense is a business expense.
Yes.
But if you're handing $5,000, $5,000 over to a company that says, send us your Word doc, we'll create a book for you and send you 100 copies of it, well, you just spent $50 a copy, and you were their customer. They're not selling it anywhere else.
No, but I think being a writer, it's funny. I think that's one of the industries where, for a long time, the money didn't come to the writer. The money went to everybody else, and I think that indie publishing has allowed for the money to actually come to the writer, to the person who is creating the product, to the artist. And like everything else, people come up with scams to try to move that money away from the artist. But I work with a regional authors group called Rocky Mountain Fiction Writers, and I am their independently published authors liaison, because
Nice.
I believe strongly that we can do this ourselves. You just have to educate yourself, and you have to find best practices, and find, if you're going to work with other artists, editors, cover artists, whatever, you have to find really good, reputable folk so that you can present a finished commercial product without breaking the bank for yourself.
Exactly. And this is where a lot of author co-ops have also popped up that I've seen, where they go and they gather their resources together and become their own publishing group, so that then they have the one editor that helps them all out. And so then they can accept someone one at a time if they all agree into their co-op. And that's been pretty powerful as well.
It is. I read The Naked Truth About Indie Publishing by the indie ladies, and
Yes.
that was one of the first things that I read after my writing partner and I had the big discussion about Courtney Milan. It was mind blowing and completely eye opening, and I thought, oh my god, I can do this. I mean, it's a lot of work, and I think that's one of the drawbacks for being an indie author is that people don't realize how much work it is.
And it's
If
more than
I,
just the writing.
It is. I mean, I have a specific time that I write. I have a certain number of words every day I have to write. This month has not been good for that. But now I'm in Nano, so Nano helps move me forward. Although, have you noticed before you started writing as your full-time career, Nano was a big deal.
Right.
I did it a bunch of years and I won, and some years I didn't win. And now I'm like, I write like 4,000, 5,000 words a day anyway. Like if I don't write that, I fall behind on my schedule. But I also have to schedule time for you do your social networking. You do your, looking at your marketing. What are you going to do for this? What are you going to do for that? Managing your budget. What are you doing with your cover artist? So you're right. It's not just the writing. And I think that's why there are still people who cling to traditional publishing because a lot of that, that publishing aspect, people don't want to do.
Right. They just want to sit and write.
That would be awesome, but I think that's unrealistic in this world, even for a traditionally published author. I mean, my traditionally published friends, they're out there flogging their work just as hard as I am.
They're having to do everything.
Not going to do it for them.
The only thing that's being done for them is their words are being edited and packaged. And those are things that can be easily learned.
Well, and the other thing is, what if you hate your cover?
You're stuck.
You're stuck because that's what they've decided is the best way to package that book to sell. And if you say, but that doesn't really say it to me, and they're like, well, they're there, but
we are the publishers. We're smarter than you. We've got this.
I don't agree. I mean, I look at some of the stuff that I see that is traditionally published, and I think, why did you think that was great? I mean, it's not a bad book, but how many other books did you turn down for this?
Oh, they turned down a lot.
They do. I mean, what is it, like 15% of everything that is published is what is submitted to them?
Yeah, and also as more and more people grow, it's a numbers game. They always say that, they turn down 99% of what they get. Well, that number is only going to get bigger as more people submit. And there's still only one company that can only handle so much. Like Simon & Schuster, they put out 2,000 books in 2014. That's a lot of books. 2,000.
It is, and today they just did Donald Trump's book.
Yeah. But, that's a lot of books to put out. And so they really don't have the resources to put a lot of marketing behind 2,000 books in only 350 days.
No, and they're not and they don't have the staff. They don't have the manpower. Even if they could just throw money at it, you still have to have the staff that's out there promoting the book, and they just don't. So you as the author, you're still stuck doing all the
same situation.
Yes. So I've just figured I need to do this for myself. I mean, I'm kind of a control freak. I'm not really hardcore, but enough that it'll drive me crazy if I don't get the final say. And my husband is very supportive of this. He's like, go ahead and write. I think that's fantastic. He's like, what if you screw up? And I said, well, if I screw up, the best part is I can just pick myself up and try again. Whereas if I was traditionally published and the book didn't, blow off the shelves, they would drop me.
And you're dead for life. That's it. It's over.
Well, and if you look at the contracts now, I mean, they're, it's your lifetime plus 70 years. My kids wouldn't even get my rights back.
Nope, not even grandkids.
That's the biggest thing for me when I started looking at, because that's another thing that Courtney Milan and who's the other one? Susan Spann. They write a lot of publishing law blogs and articles. You don't get your rights back. I work with a friend she's a hybrid publisher, so she does, both indie and traditional. And she said if they say they're going to keep my rights for longer than 5 years, I won't sign with them because I'm willing to give them 5 years, but after 5 years, it needs to come back to me.
Right. She's correctly recognizing that she's licensing her work to a publisher, not selling it.
I read this really interesting article about the police, And one of the reasons that the police like were millionaires, bajillionaires, even after they stopped producing the way that they did in the 80s and the 90s, is because one of the guys' brother was their manager. He put them on allowance. He didn't let them blow all their money, and he licensed their music to he licensed the rights to promote the music to the record companies. So they went in the studio and they paid for their own studio time and their own recording time, and they didn't let the studios handle any of that. They took that expense on themselves. And to me, that's what I think you have to do for indie publishing, is you take on that initial expense so that you maintain your intellectual property rights, and you maintain the control over how those are licensed.
Right. And now, if you're doing everything yourself, you no longer need to license to the big publishers, because you have, thanks to Amazon, CreateSpace, Kobo, Barnes & Noble with their Nook Press, you have direct access to the retail.
And, and when we were talking about this a little bit earlier, the readers don't care. What the readers look at is the cover attractive? Is it appealing? Is the writing good? Is the story compelling? And are your grammatical errors down to a minimum? Really? Because while you always hear don't read your reviews, I read my reviews, but I also read the reviews of other books to see, in my genre, what are people complaining about? Those are the things that people complain about. They don't care whether, Random Penguin or Lisa Manifold published it. They don't care about that.
No, they don't. What they care about is, was it a good, compelling story? Was it interesting? I always say you have 3 seconds to grab their attention with a cover.
Yes.
And then you have 9 seconds to grab their attention with the text on the back. And then you have 27 seconds to grab their attention when they read that first 2 or 3 pages.
That first page. They may read the first page.
Exactly. And if you got their attention at the bottom of that first page and they flip it over, you got them. They're going to walk that
buy
up and buy it.
Yep, absolutely.
And so, you can do it yourself as an indie publisher, and you've got access to where all the customers are. And like you said, they don't care who it came from.
It just has to be a good story, and they feel like they didn't waste their money. Right. And I'm a big reader, so I totally understand that. I can't understand spending $12 for an ebook. I look at that and think, is that worth it to me? I could go buy a hardcover or a trade paperback for $12.
Right, and that's the traditional publishing trying to maintain the dominance of the print world. That's another soapbox right there. Yeah, because they just got done renegotiating all their contracts with Amazon so that they can price their books higher for the ebooks.
Well, you know what? I have a book allowance. My husband is totally cool with me buying ebooks up to a certain point. That's why I have Kindle Unlimited. So
$10, you're good.
Well, $10 gets me a lot of books. I'm one of those people, I can download a book a day. But when I see a book that's over $6 or $7, it has to be an author that I really like, that I trust, that one that has shown me already. When I see ebooks that are $11, $12, $13, I can't do it. I mean, unless it's a nonfiction, because I read a lot of nonfiction, and that I don't know what that is, but I don't mind paying a little bit more for a nonfiction book.
Well, you're getting information. The value is changed when it comes to your nonfiction book.
True.
I'm going to get something out of it so that I can utilize that in my life, as opposed to fiction, which entertainment, done, next.
I think you're right. So that's the other reason that I like indie publishing. I think it, I've read a lot of articles about, doing the $2.99, the $3.99 really devalues our work. I don't necessarily agree with that, because I'm the reader that everybody wants. We don't even want to talk about the fact that I've bought every book of H.M. Ward's. She has 20 books in that one series.
Right.
I own them all. So I don't necessarily look at that. I just look at that as, that's a way for a reader who's on a budget to buy more books.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not a devaluation. The price on the cover or on the listing for the ebook does not equate to the value of the book at all.
No, and I know this from doing CreateSpace. I have to price the print covers, the print versions at a certain amount to make back the money, and that's it. That's the whole reason that the print book is the cost that it is, because you have to pay for the printing. And so I understand why the print books are more expensive. I don't understand why the ebooks are so expensive.
Yeah, well, they'll let you price it. Amazon will let you price it all the way down to 99 cents. I don't care.
I know.
They won't let you go free, but we can try to price match.
Yes, if you go wide, you can definitely price match.
But yeah, so, looking at that, so indie publishing, I'm sold on it. I've done it, for a while, formed my own company. So that's the way to do it. Well,
and that's, I did that with one of my writing partners. We have our own press, and right now we publish just our books, but our goal is to move more into that author co-op that you were talking about earlier. I feel like, though, I need to get my own platform solidly established before I go about saying, "Oh, I can help you become successful too." I think you have to have your, the cred of what you've done before you
show
can offer
that you can
to other
do
people.
It.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I have covered everything that I had checkmarked on my list here for our interview. Before we shut this interview down and everything, is there anything else that you would like the people who are watching or potential readers for you to know?
Read the books. I know in that first book, initially you think, Lisa, what are you doing? But keep reading. Keep reading. Because if there's anything that I can promise you as a writer, I believe in the happily ever after. It always happens. It just may not happen right away.
So should readers read One Night at the Ball first?
You can read One Night at the Ball whenever you want.
Because that's a prequel.
It is.
Am I going to get more out of the story if I've read that one first?
I don't know. I thought about, because somebody else asked me that. It will make Thea's tale make a lot more sense. But as a reader, do you like... It's more of a question, do you like wondering why is a character behaving the way they are, or do you want to know? I'm the kind of reader, I like to know things that the main character doesn't know. I'm totally good with that, where you as the reader know more than the main characters in your story. So for me, I would read One Night at the Ball first, but you don't have to. Right, but it shows you, Katrin actually starts off life as a really nice person. She's a good girl. She loves her parents. She's a kind individual. When we meet her in Thea's tale, oh my God, she is awful. I made her as absolutely horrible as I could. She is cold. She is hateful. She is spiteful.
She's your villain.
She's the villain with the capital V. She's just, oh gosh, she's awful. But once you read One Night at the Ball, you understand there's a reason why she became as awful as she did. So, not that it's justified, but that you can understand. We're human. You can understand how what happened in her life sent her down the road that it did, and why she's behaving the way that she is.
So as the creator of the series, would your recommendation be to read 1, 2, and 3 and then the prequel, or prequel first and then 1, 2, and 3?
Prequel first and then 1, 2, and 3. There's a lot of discussion about should you write series that are standalones as well? And I don't necessarily follow that, because to me, if you do a series, it's a continuation. So I'm okay with, you kind of have to read book 1 before you can really get what's going on in book 2 and book 3.
Excellent. So even though it's not cliffhanger endings and it's just, the book just ended and it's like, what? Why are you doing a second book? It's still, each one is a complete story.
Yes.
With its own little mini ending.
Yes.
But you still don't read them out of order. I certainly wouldn't want to read the 5th book of Harry Potter first.
Yeah, I think it will be a more enjoyable read if you read 1, 2, 3.
All right, excellent. Well, hey, thank you so very much, Lisa, for coming on ODNT and letting us shine the spotlight on you.
Thank you so much for doing this. This has been awesome.
Of course. And don't hang up just yet. We're going to chat for a little more and everything.
Okay.
For that, but thank you very much. Say goodbye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
And that was Lisa Manifold. Switching over, there we go. And so this one, Katrin's Grimoire, comes out this November. It's still with the editor now, so she's got 27 days left for this, and with Thanksgiving in the middle of it, so whew, she's got her time cut out for her. And so that's her series, starting with One Night at the Ball, which is the prequel novella. Definitely check that out. And again, I have the links to all of her books on Amazon down below. You can check out the entire series on that, as well as looks like she's got some other books in there as well you can take a look at that she looks like she's worked with other authors on for that. And so, but definitely check it out, and you can read the preview in Amazon. And I went and I read the preview of Thea's Tale, and it just hooked me and grabbed me, and I'm like, okay, this is definitely reminds me of when I read Grimm's fairy tales, which are some of the stuff that made me really love reading as a kid. And I would actually grab my Grimm's fairy tale book that was all dog-eared and read that instead of watching television. It was so good. So I'm glad to see that she's retelling and adding more depth and motivation to the characters of a Grimm's fairy tale. So love it, love it. So once again, I'm Steve DeWinter for ODNT Spotlight. Don't forget to join the ODNT team and subscribe to this channel. We have many more authors, artists, musicians, actors, anybody that'll come on my show. I'll have them on my show. And thank you so very much for those who are subscribing. We passed over 500 subscribers about a week or so ago, and we're rocketing up and getting more influence and more exposure to all the people that I have on our channel here. So thank you very much for those of you who are watching, and have a great day. Bye.